Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode of my podcast, Is Breakfast Included? How are you guys doing? I'm doing pretty good. Today, I have a great conversation with my good buddy, Ted Levin. Now, Ted fronts a trio called Sweet Crooner, and they do hits from the 50s and early 60s. He also does this solo every Friday night here at the Omni Hotel in Dallas. I had a great conversation about what brought him here to Dallas, his heavy metal days, being in a 90s alternative rock band with a hit in one of the biggest markets in radio. That's right, Dallas, Texas. And what it was like auditioning for Marilyn Manson. We had a lot of fun. It was great catching up. Ted's a great guy, and he's a very dear friend. So I'm going to let you check this out. Introduce yourself.
Who am I? God, who am I? I'm Ted Levin. I've been in Texas since 1988, where I bumped into you, I think a year later, right? 89. I think I tracked it back to 89. Came out to go to school here at North Texas, grew up a little outside of Manhattan in the Hudson River Valley, and knew I wanted to do music for the rest of my life, knew this was the best.
Why Texas?
North Texas was just one of the best schools for that. And got here, realized there was no rock department. Where's the heavy metal room, man? I eventually got out in 94 with a social work degree that's done me nothing but collect dust. And, I did some sales jobs for a while.
That's how
we worked at a
telemarketing firm.
Telemarketing together, that's right. And turned 30. You worked at PC, right?
Yeah.
I literally turned 30, walked in my job at PC and said, I quit, and never really worked again. I mean, whatever that means. Did odd stuff, taught guitar lessons, worked in a pawn shop, waited tables, bartended.
All to kind of focus on music.
I wanted to have the freedom to go whatever direction music took me. And
How old were you when you moved here?
88, 18.
18?
Yeah.
Was it a culture shock for you?
Absolutely, man. I mean,
did you imagine Texas being cowboy hats?
What's that? Is it chicken? Is it steak? Is it man? Is it beast? I figured Texas was the Old West and, tumbleweeds be passing by wherever you went. Everyone had a 6-shooter. Not too far from the truth.
Not too far. And Denton had a pretty cool music scene at the time.
Did. I mean,
we were coming out of the 80s into the 90s.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you were there like 88. You had like 10 Hands, big bands. And then you had bands breaking that we got to watch break, like Tripping Daisy. I had
Brutal Juice
classes with those guys. Yeah. Brutal Juice. And then watching Bowling for Soup break.
Yeah.
Out of Denton.
Yeah.
Out of that scene.
Tripp and Daisy were the big rock stars, though, to us.
I had Wes Berggren, may he rest in peace, in a class in, must have been 91. And he had this beautiful, long, blonde hair. And he was tan, he just looked like this model. And he would sit in front of me in men's choir. And I'd be like, trying to grow my hair out. God, how do I get that hair? I was going to snip some of it off and glue it on. But, so he, Tripp and Daisy started rehearsing at one of the dorms there at North Texas. Yeah. How it all started. Rick's Place in Denton. That was the place.
I remember him telling me one of their first tours was in an Astro van.
That's funny, man.
It was years and years ago.
Yeah.
He could have been pulling my leg, but
I believe it.
So did you immediately come in and start a band? Did you kind of feel it out, or were you?
I mean, I was so metal back then. That was my whole thing. So I tried doing metal bands. It was so funny. The metal scene here in the late 80s was still alive and well into the early 90s.
Yeah.
So I donned the spandex and the boots, and I had a hair metal band called Charlemagne. And we did The Basement and City Limits and all that stuff.
Your singer his name was Daru.
Daru. which was
when I heard of
African
Charlemagne,
name.
I thought they must be good. He's got a cool name.
He's a great guy. We still keep in touch, but we did shows with Dangerous Toys and all these iconic Dallas metal bands. So I was part of the end of that scene, which was really kind of fun. Not that it ended, but just to be part of it in some way. And then I heard Alice in Chains, and I was like, wow, that's where things are going. And that's what songwriting is about. It's still hard-edged, but there's melody and there's harmony and there's flat fives and different, approaches to songwriting that wasn't there for me in metal, and I was hooked. And then Soundgarden, and then Nirvana, and all those bands really showed me a whole new kind of outlook to music. And for the first time, I think 93, 94, I started seriously writing, at least rewriting, actually writing good songs.
Yeah.
And 94, I think because of you and your buddy Derek Taylor in Corsicana, I went down to the Cana and I recorded my first song. And it was the start of, 25, 30-year journey.
Yeah, yeah.
As a songwriter.
Yeah. And during that time, you held a pretty interesting job too, right?
We did. Both of us for a little bit. Yeah. I my last couple years of college, I played guitar and sang in the men's room of a strip club called Caligula. And we'd just sit in there and sing all night and make tips and sell cigars and candy and all that. And some interesting stories. Gene Simmons, I remember he came in there one time. I asked him, man, look, can I see your tongue? And he kind of looked around and went, that's just for the chicks, man. So that was funny. Who else? God, all kinds of Dallas Cowboys were coming in there. So that was an interesting gig.
I remember Vinny Pazienza coming in there.
Oh, no kidding. That's so funny.
The boxer.
Yeah.
So during this time, you start your journey of what you're doing now.
Yeah.
Away from the metal scene.
Yeah. I think when I turned, even before that, let me step back. 97, I got an offer to play in this Denton rap metal band called Beef Jerky. And that was a lot of fun, man. It really was. It was such a test as a guitar player to play with this amazing rhythm section, Danny Handler, Eric Delegard on bass. Yeah. And to be lockstep with those kind of, that level of musicianship, it really made me a good player. Danny Handler, if you missed a note, he would literally toss a drumstick at you.
Yeah. Well, I remember when you got the gig, Tommy Moore was leaving the band.
Exactly.
And then you got the gig and we're like, Ted.
They took a different direction. And it was funny because we started doing these shows with this little band out of Wichita Falls called Bowling for Soup. And they come down here and start opening for us here in Denton, Rick's Place. And a year later, they just won over our crowd and so many other folks down here. And they're just blowing up. And come 2000, the singer, one of the main guys in Beef, says, look, I'm going to manage Bowling for Soup. I got him a record deal. Beef Jerky's done. And he said to me, you should do your own band, man. Your song, you've got some good songs. I've been giving him songs I've been doing with Derek. And he said, you should do your own band. You should front it. And it should be on my label. So I started Space Cadet in 2000.
Right on, man.
Yeah. Which, was a 9-year journey. And a lot of highs, a lot of lows.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
It was cool, man. It was my baby. And I think most importantly, it was a vehicle for me as a songwriter. It was a fertile time for me to just put all the pain into music and write. And I got some really good stuff out of it. And we did some great stuff. I don't know. I think it peaked in probably 06 with the second release, Debutante, we had a single, a cover of Betty Davis Eyes that was, the #1 requested song on the Edge that year by a local artist. And for a month, I was getting 20, 30 spins a week. And we're like, this is going to blow up. And when it didn't get the push it needed, a month later, they pulled it. And we were, kind of back where we were. But it was the coolest thing ever to get in your car, turn on the Edge.
And hear your song.
And hear your song, your voice. It is unlike any other experience. Those were great days. We did some Warped Tour gigs. We did some tours with Bowling for Soup. I think for me, the best gig was this opening for Ashley Simpson at, it wasn't Jaxa, what was it then? Smirnoff, Starplex?
We'll call it Starplex.
Starplex. I'll give Starplex to me. And being on that big stage where I'd seen Ozzy and, Alice and Slayer and Pantera, and you're standing on that same stage and you, for the first time, you hear what it sounds like to hear the music thumping through your chest, the sound system like that. And playing in front of, 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 kids, little girls screaming for Ashley Simpson. But nevertheless, it was just, I think, the highlight for me live.
Yeah.
It's an amazing experience. Just playing live music is such a trip. That was over by 2009. I kind of twiddled my thumbs for a couple years. I did some cover bands. I did a grunge cover band that was kind of fun. And, I eventually said, well, I got to keep working, got to keep playing. And I started this thing called Sweet Crooner, which was just kind of, to me, a tribute to the 50s, early 60s. And I wanted to recreate my love of that, which for me, growing up, at 7, Elvis was what I wanted to be. Stand in front of a mirror with a comb and singing Hound Dog and all that. That was my first real teen idol love. And I wanted to kind of go back there. So I started doing that, and I wanted to put a spin on it where I could do a solo gig, but have a much fuller sound. I wanted to be different than the guy with a guitar playing Kumbaya sitting on a stool. So I figured, well, how can I add some stuff? So I said, well, I'm going to teach myself how to play harmonica. Not just Bob Dylan, Neil Young harmonica, but some real harp playing. And it was tough, but I finally figured out how to play guitar and be able to solo on harp with a rack on my neck. So all of a sudden I had, a solo instrument with the guitar. And I was like, well, how can I add a beat to it? How can I add some percussion? And I said, well, I could wear these little tambourines on my feet. So I started doing that, and all of a sudden I had this beat going. And I said, well, how can I add the beauties of all those 50s, early 60s harmonies? And I don't want to have to get another guy in the group and have to pay him. So I started using...
so well on my own.
Yeah, this is going so good so far. But I need a Garfunkel to my Paul Simon. Yeah. So I started using a harmonizer and, doing it organically where it wasn't so robotic sounding. So all of a sudden I had a solo act that had these different elements, dynamics that a lot of guys didn't have, that kind of recreated that 50s sound, but gave you a fuller, more live band sound. And then from there, I said, well, what else can I do? So I got a great stand-up bass player to play with me. Eventually got another guitar player, my good buddy Jason Jones from the Feds, who's just fantastic.
Another band from the Fro years.
Yeah, exactly. They, one of my favorite all-time Dallas bands.
So good.
So it's great to be playing with him. And, we've been doing it 9 years now, I think, 8, 9 years. And, it's 150 shows a year, 180 shows a year. Even with COVID, I still did 80 shows 2020.
Wow.
I've been lucky. I've been at the Omni Hotel every weekend for 9 years in March. And that's enabled me to kind of pay the bills and take what gigs I want. And been with a great agency for 6 years called the 13th Floor. And it's fun, man. I love what I do. And, with COVID, as you know, we were talking earlier, we were all so just hit hard, distraught. Yeah. What do we do now? Sitting on our hands. I was out of work for 3 months. Omni shut down. Nothing coming from the agency. So I started writing again for the first time since Space Cadet split. And that was such a cleansing experience for me, to take pride in being a songwriter again. And I totally went from, the pop, hard pop, alt rock of Space Cadet and went back to my first love of metal. And I was like, I'm going to write something really heavy. And I dropped the guitars down to C and B and drop A, all on a 6-string. And I was like, I'm going to write a rock opera. And I made it about COVID. And I wrote this 17-minute long rock opera comparing COVID to Edgar Allan Poe's Masque of the Red Death, which is about tuberculosis in the 1850s in disease-ravaged Italy, where the Prince Prospero, locks himself with all his best buds in an abbey with all the food and booze, and while everyone else around the country is dying, they're all partying. And then, of course, the angel of death shows up one night and inflicts them all, and they all die. So I put that in a modern context with COVID, but not to get political, but I made Prince Prospero our late president of yesteryear, and made the White House the hold-up abbey, and kind of put it in that context, and just wrote this massive 17-minute long piece called Red Death. And Derek mixed it for me. And for me as a songwriter, man, it was just so epic to write something of that magnitude. It took me 3 months, to engineer, track this thing. And it's like 4 parts. I'll have to get it to you.
Yeah.
But it was something I was really proud of. I don't know what I'll ever do with it. But I kept writing after that. I've done some.
Do you think you'll ever perform it with anyone?
Man, that would be so much work, but never say never.
Yeah.
It would take a lot of work. But I'm starting to write. I wrote a pop rock tune recently that Derek's going to mix for me here soon, and I'm really proud of that. It really reminds me of something from Space Cadet era, and it's just, for me, after going so long with not writing anything, not only to write some, raging stoner metal, but to be able to write some pop songs too. It made me realize that it's still there, that I still have the ability, and maybe that's where I'll end up licensing. Who knows? Yeah, we'll see.
That was my next thing. Do you ever think you'll start writing for other people?
I would like to. Man. Yeah. I did a soundtrack just for Grins. That was fun. So I would like to get into it. We'll see, what happens with COVID and all that.
Would you be able to fit that in with the Sweet Crooner project?
I think so.
To do an original project?
I think so. I mean, I'm going to clock in at 160 shows this year.
Yeah.
And man, I'm 51, almost 52. And it's, people think playing music for a living is fun and it's easy and it's all laughs. But it's a lot of work. You know that more than anybody. And it's taken a toll on me physically. I've recently kind of come to the conclusion that I have severe hearing loss. And I knew I had something and I couldn't figure out what it was, saw specialists. And finally I was working with a vocal coach and he was like, well, hey, dummy, do you wear earplugs? And I said, oh, earplugs. I'm doing an acoustic gig. What do I need earplugs for? And I was wrong. I was warm in rock bands, but I didn't do it with Sweet Crooner. And all those frequencies, they're high-end frequencies, acoustic guitar, tambourine, harmonica, they take a toll. And I developed this condition called temporary threshold shift, where all of a sudden, loud noises take a toll and your hearing is just muffled.
Yeah.
And it sucks. And
I have to turn my head to the right when people talk to me.
Really?
This is the good ear. This one's very muffled. And when I meet somebody new and I do it, they think I'm being rude, but I'm like, talking to the good ear.
You got to use one of those old school little funnels.
Sonny.
So I started wearing the plugs, and it was a learning curve. It's taken some getting used to, but the alternative is being Beethoven, and I'm not going out like that. And I got to keep working. So, I'm doing 3 to 5 shows a week. Still, yeah.
Yeah. And so you have a regular gig at the Omni Hotel?
Yeah, I'm at the Omni every Friday and Saturday night. And then I do at least 1 or 2 shows a month with the trio. And the trio is so much fun because not only am I, playing guitar, harmonica, singing, I got these tambourines on my feet, but my upright bass player, who's just a phenomenal player, Mark Deffiba, not only just slays it on the upright, but the whole time he's playing a kick drum behind him with both feet. He has a double bass pedal that he plays with his heels. He stands on these wood blocks. So the whole time we've got a downbeat, and then the hats or the tambourines with the upbeat, the whole time. So it creates this kind of faux drummer, this kind of fake drum machine. And it's kind of fun. And, you don't have that crack of the snare and the cymbals killing you. Yeah. And we get a lot of gigs where you can't get a drummer into with noise ordinances and stuff like that. So, and it's a cool dynamic.
You don't deal with the drummer.
Right. The attitude of the drummer.
Noodling.
No noodling. So it's a fun gig, man. I love playing 50s music and just going back there to the stuff I grew up with. But we'll see where I go with the songwriting. It's just, for me, I'm so happy that I thought it was gone. I thought the window had closed. There were no more muses in the world. And then I met my wife, and I was inspired again to write. It really just kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, your wife's a writer. Did that
I think that's very possible. To be in a relationship with another creative is just so amazing and fulfilling. And to watch her, come up with this stuff, it definitely inspired me to at least try again. And it bore fruit. I was able to kind of get back into it. It's slow. It's not pouring out of me or anything, but she was definitely the inspiration.
Has it ever just poured out of you, like back in your younger days? Did it just?
I think so, man. I mean, there was a time in Space Kid I was living in a storage shed, sleeping on a futon, and it was like, wow, I'm virtually homeless. And when you're in that kind of place in your life, the songs come.
Yeah,
the songs come, and the experiences, the relationships, they all kind of wind up as songs. And I've always approached songwriting what I call humming and strumming, just picking up a guitar and just first thing that comes out of your mouth, you just kind of hum it and strum it. And if you get one little, line that's cool, one little melody that's cool, you have something.
Yeah.
And you just keep adding on and building.
Well, I remember a guy, what you just said reminded me, I think about this a lot. When we were at our previous place of employment, a guy came in and was talking to me.
The previous place where they wore very little clothes.
The shoe models.
The shoe models.
And I remember him telling me, like, is this all you do? And I go, no, I have a real job and I have a band. And he's like, well, I wish you luck because it doesn't get any more humble than this. But what you just told me, it doesn't get any more humble than what you went through.
Thanks,
so
man.
So I see where you are. Like, I think I just talked to a friend of mine and he said, people define success differently.
Sure.
Like, sure, you'd want more, but you're happy doing what you're doing.
Man, I've never been as happy as I've been in the last 3 years. I'm in the greatest relationship of my life and the last one.
Yeah.
And we got married in June, and it was the best day of my life. And I just feel more positive about life than I ever have, and about where I'm going with music. And it's thanks to her. It really is.
Well, I've known you a long time, man, and I've never seen you like I've never seen you like naysaying the day.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Like you get up and you're like, all right, man, I'm gonna make the best of today. As long as I've known you.
I try, man. I mean I've gone through some dark periods, but a lot of good memories, a lot of good times. I mean, we were talking earlier, the GTI years.
Let's go back there.
Yeah,
you had an interesting audition.
That's right.
Back in the 90s.
That's right. So, and it kind of stems into the whole Caligula thing. You might remember every week we would have a featured entertainer.
Yeah.
Who was a adult film star, and they would do their show 3 times a day, and they would sell Polaroid pictures to get a picture with them. Well, me being the men's room valet, I would go back to their dressing room and say, hey, can I get a picture with you? I'll put it up in the bathroom. It'll help you. It'll help me. So I had this huge collection of some pretty famous adult stars. And this buddy, well, heck, it was you who told me about, that's what I forgot. Said, man, the Observer has an ad for Marilyn Manson's looking for a guitar player. So I sent in the tunes I had done with Derek at the time, trying cassette. I mean, that's how long ago we're talking about.
I sent my cassette.
Oh my God. And I made a collage of all those Polaroids, and some of them were fairly risque, and I knew Manson would dig that. And sure enough, I got this audition opportunity.
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Do you remember the story about your collage of Polaroids? You did it because you were working at the school.
Yeah.
And
my gosh, that's right.
And you did this on the Xerox machine, and then you just got the flyer.
Oh my God.
And you left all the pictures.
Oh,
and
yes.
you came to work, and you're like, I think I messed up.
Yeah, incriminated myself. That's funny. I had forgotten about that.
Anyway, continue.
So I got the audition, went out with my buddy Raymond Lee Honeycutt, and we went to Trent Reznor's studio on Magazine Street, which is an old mortuary. You literally walk up to it, and there's gargoyles and that little sliding thing where someone comes to the window. What's the password? And we went in there, and I was one of like 13 cats, and you went into this little dark room where there's a spotlight. You walk out in the middle, and your eyes adjust, and you see that Manson and Reznor and all those other guys in Manson were sitting on a couch right in front of you. And I got to play a couple songs, and Ray was like, man, you got to wear this voodoo chicken foot necklace. Manson will love it. So I wear this necklace, and I'm rocking out. I got the long hair, and the necklace starts spinning, and it gets caught in my hair while I'm trying to play. So I start trying to shake it out and, play and not miss a beat. And I look over, and they're all laughing at me. I'm like, Ray, you screwed me, man.
He made you wear his leather pants.
Yeah, I wore leather pants and pentagrams on the side and painted my nails and all that. And I remember, I think what killed it for me at that audition was Manson said, I played a couple songs, said, well, can you play Sweet Dreams for us?
Yeah.
And I didn't know it. I didn't know his big hit song. I wasn't a fan. I'd learned the songs their manager had told me to learn. I didn't do my homework. And I said, well, I don't really know that one. And he was visibly disappointed in me. So I didn't get the gig. But years later, it was funny. I got to hang out with Billy Corrigan for an evening. My girlfriend at the time, her family owned this wrestling company called TNA.
Yeah.
Total Nonstop. And Billy Corrigan bought into them as their entertainment director. And he was out here touring with Manson. So we got to hang out with him. And we took him to, a Deep Ellum bar and just shot the shit for a couple hours. And that was an amazing, to talk to Billy Corrigan about, well, how'd you track Siamese Dream? And what guitars did you use? What, Marshalls and a muff muff pedal, distortion. I was like, wow, that's it. But I told him that Manson story, and he was like, that's funny. I'll see if on the tour, we can get you guys reconnected. And I was like, that would be great, but it didn't happen. But he was really interesting to meet, just a super intelligent guy. And, I was such a huge fan. So that was humbling. But yeah, man, some great water under my bridge.
Right on.
The bridge is a little rusty as of late, but
do you kind of in light of recent allegations, you kind of think you dodged a bullet with that?
Right? Yeah, that's crazy. I don't regret not getting that gig. I might have opened doors, but I don't think I would have become the songwriter that I became. And to me, that's so much more important. To leave behind a legacy, a body of work, is so much more important to me.
Yeah.
Even if it's not,
I still have the Glow CD.
Yeah, the Glow record, right?
Glow record.
Ray gun.
Man, is there anything else you want to talk about? As far as
just I want to plug myself.
Yeah.
Not literally, but sometimes. Ted Levin YouTube is all the Space Cadet records are all on there. My recent stuff is on there. Also, my wife's writing is amazing. She's a published writer with Harlequin. She's self-published. CynthiaSt.Aubin.com. St. Aubin is Aubin. It's a patron saint of protection from pirates. You probably didn't know that.
No.
But she's amazingly brilliant and hysterical and just a genius writer. So that's it. You can find me every weekend at the Omni Hotel, doing the very best of the 1950s and early 1960s. Thank you very much.
The rest to stacks, the best on wax.
That's right. Said that a few times too. And Sweet Crooner is still playing around town. So check us out on the old Facebook and Instagram for dates.
Right on, man.
And thanks for having me on, man. It's really good to see you.
Thanks for your time. Thank you for doing this.
You look good.
Oh.
I got to say, do you remember the fake hunk? I can't let this go without bringing the fake hunk up. When I first met Bernie, our mutual friend Derek Taylor said, you got to meet my friend Bernie Guerra, the fake hunk. I'm like, why do you call him the fake hunk? He's like, well, he's like a hunk without all the other qualities.
I told that story. I do this with a friend of mine named Lisa Letterman.
Yeah.
And I think I told her that story, the fake hunk, because I was telling her I'm going to talk to my friend Derek and I want to bring him in on this. And I said, he used to refer to me as the fake hunk.
That's so
and she's
funny.
like, what the hell? And I was like, yeah, he said I had all the qualities of a hunk except the hunk part.
He's wrong, man. You got them all. You got them all.
Well, thanks, man.
Thank you, brother.
It's been good visiting with you.
You too, man.
All right. Right on. Ted Levin, Sweet Crooner himself. Like he said, you can find him on Ted Levin YouTube. He's got a lot of great material on there. Sweet Crooner stuff, solo stuff, old stuff, new stuff. The new stuff is really cool. You can find him on Instagram at Sweet Crooner. Find out what he's up to, dates, appearances, all that stuff. Anyway, all right, guys, I'm done. Have a great day. I will talk to you next week.